The fires burned across the city of New Haven as the Keithrani warships hovered in the night sky. Their purple hulls blocked out the stars, and their weapons made the ground shake with each blast. It had been 3 years since they came to Earth. 3 years since humanity learned they were not alone in the universe. 3 years since everything changed. In the ruins of what was once a school, a girl named Maya pressed herself against a broken wall. She was 12 years old. Her dark hair was dirty and matted. Her clothes were torn and too big for her thin body. She had not eaten in 2 days, but hunger was something she had learned to ignore. Maya had no parents. They had died in the first wave of attacks when she was 9. She had no brothers or sisters, no aunts or uncles that she knew of. The world had taken everything from her, and now these aliens from the stars wanted to take what little was left. A Keithrani patrol walked past the school. Their boots made heavy sounds on the broken street. The Keithrani were tall, nearly 8 feet, with gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes glowed a soft yellow in the darkness. They wore armor that seemed to drink in the light around them. Each one carried a weapon that could turn a human to ash in seconds. Maya held her breath. She had learned to be silent, to be invisible, to survive. The patrol passed. Maya waited another full minute before she moved. She had learned that too. Patience was the difference between life and death in this new world. She crawled through a hole in the wall and made her way through the shadows. She knew every broken building in this part of the city. She knew where the Keithrani set up their checkpoints. She knew their patrol times. She knew which buildings they used as prisons and which ones they ignored. Maya was heading to the old subway station. That was where the others hid. There were about 30 of them now, mostly children like her, some teenagers, a few adults who had nowhere else to go. They called themselves the Rats because they lived underground and came out only when they had to. The entrance to the subway was hidden behind a pile of rubble that looked natural. Maya pushed aside a metal sheet and slipped inside. The tunnel was dark, but she knew the way by heart. 30 steps forward, turn left, 20 more steps, duck under the fallen beam. Then the glow of small fires would appear. "Maya's back," someone called out. It was Tommy, a boy of 14 who had appointed himself as the lookout. He was tall and skinny with red hair that stuck up in all directions. The people in the subway station looked up. Some smiled. Some went back to what they were doing. Maya had become their leader over the past year, though she never asked for the job. It had simply happened. When people had questions, they came to her. When there was a problem, they waited for her to solve it. When they were scared, they looked to her for strength. Maya did not understand why. She was just a child, but she had survived longer than most. She had kept them fed when food was scarce. She had led them to safety when the Keithrani came close. Maybe that was enough. "Any luck?" asked Mrs. Chen, an older woman who had been a teacher before the invasion. She was one of the few adults in their group. Maya shook her head. "The Keithrani increased their patrols near the food depot. We can't get close tonight. Maybe tomorrow." Mrs. Chen nodded. She did not complain. None of them did. They had learned that complaining did not help anything. Maya sat down near one of the small fires. A younger girl named Lily came and sat beside her. Lily was only 7. She had found her way to the Rats 2 months ago. She never talked about what happened to her family. Maya did not ask. "Are we going to be okay?" Lily asked in a small voice. Maya put her arm around the girl. "Yes," she said, "we are going to be okay." She did not know if it was true, but she had learned that sometimes people needed to hear lies to keep going. Hope was a powerful thing, even false hope. That night something changed. Maya was on watch at one of the hidden entrances when she heard footsteps. They were not the heavy boots of the Keithrani. These were human footsteps, quick and careful. She pressed herself into the shadows and waited. A figure appeared in the tunnel. It was a man, maybe 30 years old, with a beard and tired eyes. He wore clothes that were cleaner than anything Maya had seen in months, and he was carrying something that made her heart stop. A Keithrani weapon, one of their plasma rifles. Maya stepped out of the shadows, a piece of broken metal in her hand. "Stop," she said. The man stopped. He looked at her with surprise. Then he smiled. It was a tired smile, but genuine. "You must be Maya," he said. "They told me about you, the child who keeps the rats alive." "Who are you?" Maya demanded. She did not lower her weapon. "My name is Marcus," the man said. "I'm from the Resistance, the real Resistance. We've been fighting the Keithrani for 2 years now, hitting their supply lines, disrupting their communications. We've been looking for people like you, people who have survived on their own, people who know the streets." Maya stared at him. She had heard rumors of a resistance, but she thought they were just stories, something people told themselves to feel better. "Why would you want children?" she asked. Marcus looked at her with serious eyes. "Because the Keithrani underestimate you. They see humans as weak. They see human children as nothing, but I've seen what people like you can do. You've survived 3 years without any help. You've kept 30 people alive in the middle of occupied territory. That takes skill. That takes courage. That takes something the Keithrani don't understand." "What?" Maya asked. "Human resolve," Marcus said. "The thing that keeps us going when everything says we should give up. The Keithrani have technology, they have power, but they don't have that, and that's why we're going to beat them." Maya looked at the plasma rifle in his hands. She thought about her people in the subway. She thought about Lily and her frightened eyes. She thought about all the days of hiding and running and being afraid. "What do you want from us?" she asked. Marcus smiled again. "I want you to help us fight back. I want you to help us take our world back. I want you, Maya, to help lead the rebellion." Maya lowered her piece of metal. Something stirred inside her, something that had been sleeping for 3 long years. It was hope, real hope this time. 3 months had passed since Marcus first came to the subway. Everything had changed. The rats were no longer just survivors hiding in the dark. They had become part of something bigger. The Resistance had shown them how to fight, how to plan, and how to strike at the Keithrani without being caught. The 30 people in the subway had grown to almost 200 as word spread through the ruined city. Maya stood in front of a map spread across an old subway bench. Red marks showed Keithrani positions. Blue marks showed Resistance cells. Green marks showed places where they had successfully hit the enemy. There were more green marks every day. "The convoy will pass through the old highway tunnel at sunset," Maya said. Her voice was steady and clear. She had learned to speak like a leader. "They're transporting weapons to the eastern garrison. If we can take that convoy, we'll have enough firepower to arm 3 more cells." The people around her nodded. Some of them were her age, some were adults, but they all listened when Maya spoke. She had proven herself too many times for anyone to question her. Marcus stood in the back of the group. He smiled with pride. He had taught Maya many things over the past months, but her talent for strategy was all her own. She saw patterns that others missed. She understood how the Keithrani thought. She knew their weaknesses before they knew them themselves. "Tommy, you'll lead the first team," Maya continued. "Block the front of the tunnel. Chen, your team takes the back. No one gets out." "What about you?" Tommy asked. Maya looked at the map. "I'll take a small team inside the tunnel. We'll hit them from above. There are maintenance passages they don't know about." "That's dangerous," Mrs. Chen said. She had become one of Maya's most trusted advisors. "If something goes wrong, you'll be trapped." "Something always goes wrong," Maya said. "That's why we planned for it." That evening, Maya led her team through the old maintenance passages above the highway tunnel. The passages were tight and dark, filled with dust and broken pipes, but Maya moved through them like she was born there. She had spent years learning every hidden corner of this city. Her team was small, just 5 people, but they were the best she had. Each one carried a Keithrani plasma rifle that they had taken in earlier raids. Each one had proven they could be trusted when things got bad. "They're coming," whispered a boy named Jake. He was looking through a crack in the passage floor. Below them, the tunnel stretched into darkness. Maya pressed her eye to another crack. She could see lights approaching. 3 large transport vehicles, each one surrounded by Keithrani soldiers on foot, maybe 20 soldiers in total. The convoy moved slowly. The Keithrani were careful. They had learned that humans could be dangerous, but not careful enough. An explosion lit up the front of the tunnel. Tommy's team had made their move. The first transport vehicle crashed into a wall of rubble that suddenly appeared. Plasma fire filled the air as the resistance fighters opened up from hidden positions. The Keithrani soldiers turned to face the attack. They were well trained. They formed defensive positions quickly. Their return fire was devastating, but they were focused on the threat in front of them. They forgot to look up. Maya kicked open a maintenance hatch and dropped into the tunnel. Her team followed. They landed behind the Keithrani soldiers, between them and the transport vehicles. "Now," Maya shouted. 5 plasma rifles fired at once. The Keithrani soldiers fell before they could turn around. It was over in seconds. Maya moved to the first transport. The doors were locked, but a few shots from her rifle fixed that. Inside, she found crates of weapons, more than they had expected, enough to arm every resistance fighter in the city. "We got it," she said into a small radio. "Begin the evacuation." The next hour was a blur of activity. The resistance fighters loaded the weapons onto trucks they had hidden nearby. They moved fast. They knew Keithrani reinforcements would come soon. By the time the Keithrani arrived, the tunnel was empty except for the destroyed vehicles and the bodies of their soldiers. Word of the attack spread quickly. Other resistance cells heard about the orphan girl who had led the ambush. They heard about how she had outsmarted the Keithrani, how she had turned their own weapons against them. Maya became a symbol, a name that people whispered in the occupied zones, a story that parents told their children to give them hope. But Maya did not want to be a symbol. She wanted to win. The Keithrani began to take notice. They increased their patrols. They fortified their positions. They offered rewards for information about the resistance. They started calling Maya by a name in their own language. It meant the ghost child. But the more they tried to stop her, the more attacks she led. The more they hunted her, the more people joined her cause. Every failure made the Keithrani look weak. Every success made humanity look strong. One night Maya sat alone in the subway station. Most of her people were asleep. The fires had burned low. She was looking at the map again, planning the next move. Marcus sat down beside her. "You should rest," he said. "I can't," Maya said. "Every hour we wait, people are dying. People are suffering under them." "You're just one person," Marcus said gently. "You can't save everyone." Maya shook her head. "I'm not just one person anymore. Look around. 200 people followed me here. Thousands more are fighting because of what we've done. I'm not just Maya the orphan anymore. I'm something else now. And whatever that something is, it doesn't get to rest." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "The Keithrani commander has put a price on your head. 10,000 credits to anyone who brings you to them." Maya almost laughed. "Only 10,000. I thought I was worth more than that." "They're scared of you," Marcus said. "That's why the price is so high. They want you gone before you become more of a threat." "Good," Maya said. "Let them be scared. Fear is a weapon too." She looked back at the map. Her eyes settled on a large red mark in the center of the city. It was the Keithrani Command Center, the heart of their occupation. "We've been hitting their arms and legs," she said. "It's time to go for the head." Marcus followed her gaze. His face went pale. "The command center, Maya, that's impossible. They have hundreds of soldiers there, force fields, air defenses. We'd never get close." "Impossible is just a word," Maya said. 3 years ago, surviving was impossible. Beating them was impossible. Look at us now." She stood up and walked toward the sleeping area where Lily lay curled up on an old blanket. The little girl looked peaceful. Maya hoped she was dreaming of better things. "I'm going to give her a world where she doesn't have to be afraid," Maya said quietly. "Whatever it takes." 6 months after the tunnel ambush, the resistance had grown beyond anything anyone had imagined. What started as scattered groups of survivors had become an organized army. They had cells in every major city. They had contacts in the labor camps where the Keithrani kept their human workers. They had spies who passed information from inside the alien administration. And at the center of it all was Maya. She was 13 now, still young by any measure, but she had lived more in the past 4 years than most people did in a lifetime. The weight of leadership had changed her. Her eyes were older than her face. Her voice carried authority that made grown men listen. Today, she stood in a hidden bunker beneath an old factory. Around her were the leaders of every major resistance cell in the region. Some had traveled for days to be here. All of them looked at her with a mix of respect and hope. "The attack on the command center is set for 3 nights from now," Maya said. She pointed at a holographic display that showed the Keithrani fortress. They had stolen the projector from a destroyed patrol ship. "We've spent months preparing for this, getting the codes, mapping their defenses, planting our people inside." A man named Reyes, who led the southern cells, raised his hand. "Even with all our preparation, the casualties will be high. Is it worth it?" Maya met his eyes. "The Keithrani think they've already won. They think we're just pests to be exterminated. When we hit their command center, when we show them that nowhere is safe for them, that changes. Other occupied regions will rise up. Other planets they've conquered might fight back. This isn't just about us anymore." The room was quiet. Then one by one the leaders nodded. They had come too far to stop now. The next 3 days passed quickly. Maya barely slept. She checked and rechecked every detail of the plan. She talked to each team leader personally. She made sure everyone knew their role and what to do if things went wrong. On the night of the attack, Maya gathered her strike team at the edge of the occupied zone. The Keithrani command center rose in the distance, a massive structure of alien metal that seemed to glow from within. Force fields shimmered around it like a bubble of light. "The force fields will drop in exactly 10 minutes, Maya said. "Our people inside will make sure of that. When they go down, we move fast. We have maybe 15 minutes before their backup systems come online." Tommy stood beside her. He had become her second in command over the past year. 15 minutes to take down a fortress," he said. "No pressure." Maya allowed herself a small smile. "We've done harder things with less time." The minutes ticked by slowly. Maya watched the fortress, counting her breaths to stay calm. Everything depended on the next few hours. Everything they had built, everyone they had lost, it all came down to this. Then the force fields flickered and died. "Go," Maya shouted. The resistance fighters surged forward. They came from every direction at once. From the streets, from hidden tunnels, from buildings that the Keithrani thought were abandoned. Hundreds of humans armed with stolen weapons, driven by years of anger and pain. The Keithrani guards were caught off balance. They had expected small raids, not a full assault. They fought back, but they were outnumbered and outmaneuvered. The humans knew every corner of this city. They knew how to use the ruins and the shadows. Maya led her team through a side entrance that their spies had left unlocked. The corridors inside were lit with the strange purple light that the Keithrani preferred. It made everything look alien and wrong. They met resistance almost immediately. A squad of Keithrani soldiers rounded a corner and opened fire. Plasma bolts burned the air. One of Maya's fighters fell, but the others pushed forward. They had learned to fight through fear and pain. The squad fell. Maya stepped over their bodies without looking down. She had become used to death. She hated that about herself, but there was no time for regret. They reached the command level after 10 minutes of fighting. The doors were reinforced, designed to withstand heavy weapons, but Maya had planned for this too. "Jake," she said. Jake moved forward with a device they had built from captured Keithrani technology. He attached it to the door controls and activated it. There was a moment of silence. Then the doors slid open. The command center was huge. Screens covered the walls, showing images from across the planet. In the center of the room stood a single Keithrani, taller and more ornately armored than any Maya had seen before. The Keithrani commander. He turned to face them. His yellow eyes showed no fear, only cold calculation. "The ghost child," he said in halting human speech. "I wondered when you would come." "Your time on Earth is over," Maya said. Her plasma rifle was aimed at his chest. "Surrender and we'll let you leave." The commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "You think this is the end? This planet is one of hundreds we have taken. Even if you kill me, others will come. You cannot defeat the Keithrani Empire." "Maybe not," Maya said, "but we can defeat you. And we can show every other species you've conquered that you're not invincible. You bleed, you die, you can be beaten." She stepped closer. "I was 9 years old when your ships came. I watched my parents die. I've spent 4 years running, hiding, fighting. I've lost friends. I've done things I never wanted to do, and all of it led here to this moment." The commander reached for a weapon at his side. Maya fired before he could raise it. The plasma bolt hit him in the chest, and he fell. For a moment everyone was still, then Tommy let out a shout. "She did it! She killed the commander!" The word spread through the building, then through the city, then beyond. The Keithrani commander was dead. The ghost child had done the impossible. But Maya did not celebrate. She stood over the fallen alien and felt nothing but emptiness. Revenge was supposed to feel better than this. "Maya," Tommy said gently, "we need to move. The backup systems will come online soon." She nodded and turned away from the body. There would be time to process this later. Right now, there was still work to do. The Resistance evacuated the command center with the data they needed. Information about Keithrani defenses, communication codes, lists of other occupied planets, everything that would help them continue the fight. As Maya walked out into the night, she looked up at the sky. The Keithrani warships were still there, but they seemed smaller somehow, less threatening. For the first time in years, she could see the stars clearly. "What now?" Tommy asked. Maya took a deep breath of the cool night air. "Now we finish what we started. We take back our planet, and then," she paused, a new light in her eyes, "then we take the fight to them." 2 years had passed since the fall of the command center. Maya was 15 now, though she felt much older. The world had changed in ways she could never have imagined when she was a scared child hiding in subway tunnels. The Keithrani still held parts of Earth, but their grip was weakening every day. City after city had risen against them. The weapons and information Maya's forces had captured had spread to resistance cells across the globe. What had started as a single girl leading a group of survivors had become a worldwide revolution. Maya stood on the roof of a reclaimed building, looking out over New Haven. Much of the city was still in ruins, but there were signs of life returning. People walked in the streets during the day now. Children played in the open. It was not perfect, but it was better. "You should be resting," Mrs. Chen said, climbing up to join her. The older woman moved more slowly than she used to, but her eyes were still sharp. "I'll rest when they're gone," Maya said. It was her standard answer. Mrs. Chen shook her head. "You've been saying that for years. At some point, you have to let yourself be a person again, not just a symbol." Maya was quiet for a moment. She knew Mrs. Chen was right. The war had consumed everything. She barely remembered what it was like to have normal thoughts, normal feelings. Everything was strategy and planning and the next battle. "There's a message from the Eastern Front," Mrs. Chen said, changing the subject. Commander Reyes reports that the Keithrani are pulling back to their main base. He thinks they're preparing for something big. Maya nodded. She had expected this. The Keithrani were not stupid. They knew they were losing. They would consolidate their forces for one final push. Call a meeting of all cell leaders, she said. Tomorrow morning, we need to be ready for whatever they're planning. The meeting took place in the same bunker where Maya had first proposed the attack on the command center. It felt like a lifetime ago. She looked around at the faces of the leaders who had gathered. Some were the same people who had been with her from the beginning. Others were new, risen to take the place of those who had fallen. Intelligence reports confirm that the Keithrani are gathering their remaining forces at their main base in the Pacific, Maya began. They've called in reinforcements from orbit. We estimate about 5,000 soldiers, plus heavy weapons and air support. A murmur went through the room. 5,000 was more than they had faced in any single battle. But we have something they don't, Maya continued. We have been working with scientists who have studied captured Keithrani technology. They have found a weakness in their communication system, a way to disrupt their ability to coordinate their forces. She nodded to a woman named Dr. Park, who stepped forward. Dr. Park had been a professor before the invasion. Now she led the Resistance's technical division. The Keithrani rely on a central command signal to coordinate their units, Dr. Park explained. If we can broadcast a jamming signal on the right frequency, their soldiers will be isolated. They'll be unable to receive orders or communicate with each other. For how long? Reyes asked. Maybe an hour before they adapt, but an hour should be enough. Maya took over again. We'll hit them with everything we have. Every cell, every fighter, every weapon. This is the final battle. After this, either we win or there's no one left to fight. The room was silent. Everyone understood what she was saying. This was all or nothing. I won't force anyone, Maya said. If you want to stay behind to protect what we've already won, I understand. But if you're willing to risk everything for the chance to truly end this war, then stand with me. One by one, every person in the room stood. Some were crying, some were smiling. All of them were determined. Tommy was the last to stand. He looked at Maya with eyes that held years of shared struggles. I've followed you since you were a kid hiding in tunnels, he said. I'm not stopping now. The preparation took 2 weeks. Fighters traveled from across the continent. Weapons were gathered. Ships that the Resistance had captured were loaded with troops. Dr. Park's team worked around the clock to build the jamming devices they would need. Maya spent those weeks planning every detail. She studied satellite images of the Keithrani base. She ran through scenarios with her commanders. She made sure every fighter knew their role. On the night before the attack, she visited the medical tent where the wounded from previous battles were recovering. She walked from bed to bed, talking to each person, thanking them for their sacrifice. She found Lily there, helping the doctors. The little girl who had been too scared to speak was now 11 years old. She had grown into someone strong and capable. Maya felt a swell of pride. You're going tomorrow, Lily said. It was not a question. Yes. Will you come back? Maya knelt down to look her in the eyes. I'm going to try, but whatever happens, you'll be okay. You're stronger than you know. Lily hugged her tightly. Come back, she whispered. Maya held her for a long moment, then gently pulled away. There were no more words to say. At dawn, the attack began. The Resistance fleet approached the Keithrani base from 3 directions. It was a ragged collection of captured alien ships and converted human aircraft, but it was the largest force humanity had fielded since the invasion began. Maya was on the lead ship, watching the Keithrani base grow larger on the screens. It was massive, a city of alien metal rising from an artificial island. Weapons platforms dotted its surface. Patrol ships circled overhead. Jamming signal is ready, Dr. Park reported over the radio. Wait for my signal, Maya said. We need to be in range first. The Keithrani opened fire when the fleet came within range of their weapons. Plasma bolts and missiles filled the sky. Resistance ships exploded in flames, but they kept coming. Now, Maya shouted. The jamming signal activated. It spread across the battlefield like a wave. The effect was immediate. The Keithrani fire became disorganized. Their patrol ships veered off course. Their ground troops stopped moving. All units attack, Maya ordered. The resistance forces hit the base like a tidal wave. Landing craft descended through the chaos. Fighters engaged the confused patrol ships. Ground troops poured onto the island from every direction. Maya was among the first to land. She led her team toward the central command structure, cutting through Keithrani soldiers who were still trying to figure out what had happened to their communications. The fighting was brutal. Every meter cost lives, but the humans had something the Keithrani did not understand. They had something to fight for: their homes, their families, their future. Maya reached the command structure with barely half her team remaining. She kicked open the door and stepped inside. The new Keithrani commander was waiting. The new commander was different from the one Maya had killed 2 years ago. He was smaller, older, with scars across his gray face that spoke of many battles. His yellow eyes studied Maya with what might have been curiosity. "So you are the one," he said. His human speech was better than any Keithrani Maya had heard. "The child who would not die, the ghost who haunts our soldiers' dreams." Maya kept her weapon raised. "It ends today. Surrender your forces and we'll allow them to leave Earth. Refuse, and none of you will survive." The commander made a gesture that Maya did not recognize. "You do not understand. This was never about winning or losing. Your planet is one of thousands we have claimed over millions of years. The loss of Earth changes nothing." "Then why fight so hard to keep it?" Maya asked. "Because you are different." The commander's voice held something that sounded almost like respect. "In all our conquests, we have never encountered a species like yours. You are weak. You are short-lived. Your technology is primitive, yet you refuse to accept defeat. You fight when victory is impossible. You sacrifice yourselves for ideas and people you will never know." He took a step toward Maya. Her team raised their weapons, but he made no hostile move. "We conquered your world in weeks," he continued. "We destroyed your armies. We killed billions of your people. By all logic, you should have given up. Instead, you sent a child to lead your rebellion, an orphan with nothing left to lose, and she brought our occupation to its knees." Maya did not know how to respond. She had expected threats or pleading, not this. "I have sent a message to our homeworld," the commander said, "telling them that Earth is no longer worth the cost of holding, that humanity is a species that cannot be broken, that we should never have come here." He reached for something at his side. Maya's team tensed, but he only pulled out a small device and laid it on the ground. "These are the surrender codes for all Keithrani forces on your planet," he said. "The war is over." Maya stared at him. After all these years, after everything she had been through, it was ending like this. Not with a great battle or a heroic sacrifice, with words and a small device on the ground. "Why?" she asked. "Why give up now?" The commander's yellow eyes met hers. "Because I am old, because I have seen empires rise and fall, and because I recognize something that my superiors do not. Your species will not stop. If we kill you, others will take your place. If we destroy your world, your survivors will spread across the stars and bring war to our doorstep. Better to leave now and hope you forget us than to create an enemy that will never rest." Maya picked up the device. Her hands were shaking. She had imagined this moment 1,000 times, but it had never felt like this. There was no triumph, only exhaustion and relief. "What happens to you?" she asked. "I will return to our ships and oversee the evacuation. You have my word that no more harm will come to your people." Maya wanted to refuse. She wanted to make him pay for every death, every destroyed city, every child left orphaned like her. But she thought of Lily. She thought of all the fighters still dying outside. She thought of what this war had already cost. "Go," she said. "Leave our world and never come back." The commander inclined his head in a gesture that seemed almost respectful. Then he walked past her, through her team, and out into the chaos of the battle. Maya activated the device. A signal went out to every Keithrani soldier on the planet. Within minutes, the fighting stopped. The hours that followed were strange and dreamlike. Maya watched from the base as Keithrani ships lifted off and rejoined their fleet in orbit. She received reports from across the globe of alien forces laying down their weapons and marching toward evacuation points. By sunset, the last Keithrani ship had left Earth's atmosphere. The sky was clear for the first time in 6 years. Tommy found Maya standing alone on the roof of the command structure, watching the stars appear one by one. "It's really over," he said. His voice was thick with emotion. Maya nodded. "This part is, but there's so much more to do, cities to rebuild, people to feed, a world to put back together. Always thinking about the next battle. It's the only way I know how to be." She paused. "Do you think we can do it? Build something new from all this destruction?" Tommy put his hand on her shoulder. "I think if anyone can, it's you. You took a bunch of scared kids in a subway and turned them into an army that freed the world. Rebuilding will be easy by comparison." Maya almost smiled. She had not smiled in a very long time. In the days that followed, celebrations erupted across the planet. People danced in the streets. Families reunited. Children played in the sunlight without fear for the first time in years. Maya returned to New Haven. She walked through the ruined streets where she had once hidden from patrols. She visited the subway station that had been her home. It was empty now, but she could still see the ghosts of the people who had lived there. She found Lily in the medical camp, still helping the doctors. When the girl saw Maya, she ran and threw her arms around her. "You came back," Lily said, tears streaming down her face. "I told you I would try." Maya held her close. "The war is over, Lily, we won." "What happens now?" Maya looked out at the broken city that would need to be rebuilt, at the people who had survived and now needed to learn how to live again, at the sky that was finally free of alien ships. "Now we build a future," she said. "A future where no child has to grow up the way we did, where no one has to hide in the dark, where humanity stands together." Months later, Maya stood before a gathering of leaders from every nation on Earth. They had come to form a new government, a united humanity that would never again be caught off guard. Many of them wanted her to lead. She was the hero of the rebellion, the ghost child who had defeated the Keithrani, but Maya refused. "I'm not a politician," she said. "I'm a fighter. My job was to win the war. Your job is to win the peace." Instead, she helped establish a new defense force, not an army to conquer, but a shield to protect. She oversaw the study of captured Keithrani technology, ensuring that humanity would be ready if they ever returned. Years passed. Cities were rebuilt. Fields were replanted. Children grew up knowing the story of the invasion as history, not memory. Maya grew up too. She was no longer the scared orphan who hid in subway tunnels. She was no longer the ghost child who led the rebellion. She was simply Maya, a young woman who had done what needed to be done and now had to figure out who she was without a war to fight. She found her answer in the strangest place. A school, rebuilt on the same ground where the old one had stood. She became a teacher, sharing the lessons she had learned not just about survival and strategy, but about hope and resolve. "What made us win?" a student asked her one day. "We were weaker than them, we had worse technology. How did we beat them?" Maya thought about all the people who had fought and died, about Mrs. Chen and Marcus and Tommy and all the others, about the scared little girl she had been and the woman she had become. Because we never gave up, she said. Because when everything told us to surrender, we chose to fight. Because we believed in something greater than ourselves. The Keithrani had power, but we had resolve, and in the end that made all the difference. The student nodded, eyes wide with understanding. Maya looked out the window at the clear sky. Somewhere out there, the Keithrani Empire still existed. Somewhere out there, other species lived under their rule. But Earth was free. Humanity had proven that even the greatest power could be defeated by those who refused to break. An orphaned child had led the rebellion. Alien forces had crumbled under human resolve, and the story of that victory would echo across the stars, inspiring others to fight, to hope, and to never give up. Because that was what it meant to be human.